Okay, so this is not going to be your typical YouTube video, okay? There are a lot of things that I see on here that really annoy me, and I just refuse to do it. I'm a filmmaker, so I do love stuff to be produced, but I refuse to play some zany and crazy character for you to just grab your attention like this.
All right, so check it out, y'all. We got JC in the house. Yo.
Okay, so I saw Jesus.
Whoa!
Forget it. And as far as the short format goes, where the videos are like 1 minute to 5 minutes, forget that too. I like to do in-depth analysis and a lot of thinking and peel apart the layers of the onion so that we get a better understanding of everything that we're seeing and interpreting. These experiences that I've had have been incredibly, profoundly impactful to me, so I like to talk about them in length and analyze everything. And that leads me to the most annoying one of them all, clickbait. I totally refuse to do that. I absolutely hate it. To me, there should be a rule in YouTube that says if you put something in your thumbnail or your title, you need to cover it in your video. And that is exactly what we're going to do. You're going to see pictures and videos of what I'm calling Jesus Christ. We're going to do a very in-depth analysis on the pictures that we see. We're going to bust out the projectors and pencils and paper, and I'm going to trace out what I saw so that we're clear. And of course, we're going to talk at length about the interpretations and meaning of what happened. A couple things to cover up front here. If you don't think that Jesus was who he says he was, or if you don't even believe that he existed at all I got to tell you is that I used to be exactly like you. I found God and Jesus through psychedelics, and I didn't want to find either of them. I was a staunch and very strict atheist and worshipped science, basically. I did psychedelics in order to help myself with depression, anxiety, and addiction, and I didn't want to find God. In fact, I thought if I did find God, that this whole psychedelics thing can be written off as a joke, because clearly God and this guy are jokes. Well, I can tell you that it took just one very profound and deep God experience to change that all for me. First time I saw him, it was just feeling and seeing his presence. The second time that I saw him, it was a 2.5 hour face-to-face conversation in English, the topic of which was the most earth-shatteringly, bone-chilling, and beautiful thing that I could ever possibly imagine or barely begin to describe. Yet I did describe it here in this episode. It's amazing stuff. Please listen to it. So yes, today we're going to be talking about Jesus, which to me is the most outrageous subject imaginable, because just a year and a half ago, I didn't even believe in God. And even when I found God, I still thought this guy was a joke. So strap in for a wild ride, y'all. This is going to be absolutely mind-blowing, and I promise that you're going to see plenty of the pictures and the video at some point. I like to build it up because I'm a filmmaker. It's going to take a little bit of time to get there, but trust me, you're going to see plenty of it. In fact, you'll probably get sick of it. That's how much I'm going to show it. So anyway, strap in. Here we go. Do you know what the difference is between a unicorn and a horse? Or how about a centaur or a pegasus and a horse? I mean, unless you're one of these LARP people, the answer is pretty obvious. A unicorn, a centaur, a pegasus, they're all mythical creatures. Made up. Not real. Whereas a horse, I mean, I can go walking down the street where I live here and go touch one. Heck, if I was brave enough to trespass in Texas, I could jump on the thing and take it around for a ride. But that was way too easy of a question. Let's try a harder one. Something a little more nuanced. Do you know the difference between a vision and a sighting? Think about it. There is a difference. A big difference. A difference so big that it not only practically stares you in the face, but literally stares you in the face. Pun intended. You see, a vision is something seen and experienced under mystical circumstances. People have visions and near-death experiences, transcendental meditation, lucid dreams, psychedelic trips, and even epileptic seizures in the temporal lobe of the brain. Visions are magical, mysterious, either beautiful or horrific, and typically involve revelations imparted by some otherworldly presence. Visions come to people and are typically seen only by those that they come to. A sighting, by contrast, is quite different. Birdwatchers, for example, have sightings, not visions, of golden pheasants or blue-eyed ground doves. And because of the nature of what a sighting is, these birdwatchers can go beyond mere sight and take a photograph or even a video of what they see. A sighting, therefore, constitutes an objective reality, something that is actually there, something that can also be seen by other people, something that is not a hallucination. On the afternoon of November 20th, 2021, I had a sighting. A subtle and reticent sighting, but one that was simultaneously so overpoweringly felicitous, solemn, and perfectly timed that the initial subtlety was blasted into oblivion like a single strand of spider's silk in a nuclear explosion. And even though at the time I was on an extreme dose of the most extreme psychedelic known to man and was completely awash in deeply mystical visions, hallucinated mystical visions, in the middle of all that, I saw something real. Something that, just like the birdwatchers, I could take a picture of. And I did. What in the I wonder if that is real. I'm going to take a picture with my phone. For the past year and a half, I've been on a quest of sorts. Surely it's not going to be what I think it is. A journey to heal myself of crippling depression, anxiety, and addiction. Surely I'm crazy. Psychedelics were my primary vehicle on this journey. Surely this is all a trip. And through them, I have experienced the most amazing things you could possibly imagine. What? I have been cast into the pits of hell. What the rescued by angels and conversed with God. That is a face! And in the process, I have emerged from the depths of atheism and nihilism to the peaks of belief. But nothing I saw or experienced in that first year and a half compared to what I saw on November 20th, 2021. The sighting, the visage, the face of Jesus Christ of Nazareth. If this is true, y'all, what I'm seeing and what I saw and what I took a picture of, if it's true, what are we doing with our lives? Okay, so we are going to return to where all the magic happened. So as I had mentioned earlier, in late 2021, I had an ayahuasca experience, and in my own bathroom nonetheless, which was right here in my restroom. I know that's a very bizarre thing to say right up front. At that time, in late 2021, I was receiving multiple signs from beyond that I had a new path in life. I had some very intense synchronistic experiences, and that I not only needed to quit my job, that was all pointing me towards, you need to quit your job, but I needed to quit my entire career. A 15-year successful, highly paid, and highly benefited career. I need to quit that and start this new path. That's absolutely crazy, right? I mean, who would do something like that? But the more I tried to shun these signs that I was seeing, the more intense they became. It soon became very clear that God was not messing around. I had to quit my job as soon as possible and start on this new path. One big problem though, I had no idea what this path was supposed to be. I was absolutely terrified about what the future held in store for me. At the same time that was going down, I was simultaneously caught up in an existential crisis, trying to integrate all of the crazy, intense experiences that I had had to that point. Trying to integrate all of that into my life was crippling me. I had not only found God on my journey of self-healing, but spanning multiple ayahuasca experiences, I had several face-to-face conversations with him and experienced cosmically horrifying things. I mean, going to hell multiple times, sitting in God's presence and talking with him.
Things so far beyond and removed from human experience.
Seeing what's behind the curtain, so to speak, of our what we call reality.
That I couldn't find a bridge between my experiences.
It's all a lot to take in.
And the real world.
It was too much for me to handle.
I couldn't bridge the infinite of God with the finite of man.
I was losing my mind.
And nearly every time I contemplated that concept, bridging the infinite of God to the finite of man, I received overt signs of the cross.
And I just kept getting these signs of the cross. I mean, every time I thought about, the bridge between God and man, boom, a cross appears.
But as amazing as these signs of the cross were, Jesus still did not sit right with me. I did not think he was the answer.
I still wasn't emotionally impacted by that.
And with that in mind, I embarked on my ayahuasca experience with the full intent of determining what my new path was. Jesus was simply an afterthought.
And so, I was committed to get answers on my new path.
That, of course, was about to change.
And so, this is where it all went down, right here, right where I'm sitting.
And the experience was quite amazing. I mean, God came down and sang to me.
One of the most beautiful experiences of my entire life. I mean, God's doing a full-on display of beauty and love and warmth over here, singing me that song.
I gazed upon the shores of hell and almost got pulled in.
One of the side effects of ayahuasca is that you have extreme nausea and you feel like you need to vomit. And that was the bucket that I reached for. The whole portal to hell, that's where this was.
There was a very deep and profound God lesson involving Pantera, one of my favorite bands ever.
It's just amazing to me that I had an ayahuasca experience involving God and Pantera, of all things. Again, listen to the episode, it's amazing.
But it was the concept and topic of trickery that spurred on the most amazing part of the trip.
And as you can see, behind me is the sole source of lighting for the room. There's just that one window up there, and the light, the sunlight was coming through as you see it here. And there was that part of the experience where I was listening to this song that had both a major and minor chord that it would go in between, like evolve in between. Every time that there was a major chord, the sun would be very bright. And when it would turn into a minor chord, the sun would go down, like the sun would go behind a cloud, essentially, and the room would get very dark and sinister. And I realized that what I was experiencing was an elaborate trick. And then corresponding with that realization, I started seeing all the different psychedelic effects of just basically what an elaborate trick would look like in the psychedelic realm. And that translated in the moment into these reflections here that you see. All these reflections, the reflections of the light here on the shower window, all that turned into this very elaborate and intricately beautiful display of geometry and fractals and swirling and twirling and just a kaleidoscope of effects there, all involving reflections. And it was clear to me that whatever was causing the light and dark shifting and the mood change was also creating these amazing, elaborate kind of designs and displays that I was seeing in the form of reflections on the shower and stuff like that.
Like what I'm seeing here is an elaborate trick, and keep in mind that there was a presence involved in this. Like there was some kind of thing in the restroom with me while this was going on, making this happen.
And so the concept of trickery was really hitting home, and I honed in on a particular phrase, window dressing. There's not going to be any of this window dressing anymore of here's all of this window dressing, look at this. I just threw out the word window dressing, and I've been looking at all these reflections in the window and stuff like that from earlier. It's all a trick, right? And of course, window dressing is essentially a way to snag a customer. It's like to try to get you almost with false advertisement in a sense, that you put up this elaborate display at the front entrance of your establishment that makes it look like you have more than what you actually have. And then when you get in there, you snag them, and you almost have a captive audience at that point. And so all of that was tied into all these reflections, that same motif, if you will, of of trickery and window dressing. And the lesson behind that was be very careful what you treat as awe-inspiring and amazing, because it could very well be a trick, a cloak and dagger situation, a wolf in sheep's clothing that is meant to harm you instead of help you. And so right in that moment when I'm sitting there trying to apply this concept of trickery and window dressing to my past, and specifically to my career, because I'm supposed to have this new path. And so what did my previous career mean? And right when I said the word window dressing, right when I got to the I in window dressing, there's a reason I was existing in that corporate morass. I saw this. What in the I wonder if that is real. And it was right here. I was sitting down right here, and I was looking up right up there. I'm going to take a picture with my phone. I'm going to try to do this while maintaining eye contact with what looks like the face of someone. I'm not going to mention who yet. It was a face of someone I knew all too well, but in the moment was too terrified to fully acknowledge. I'm just going to take a picture in that general direction. Surely it's not going to be what I think it is. What the fuck? That is a face. And I just took a picture of it and I saw it. Not trusting my own perception, after all, I was on ayahuasca, I decided to take a picture of what I thought I saw so that I could review it later. You talk about synchronicity. I really hope. I'm going to show my boy here in a second that he is not tripping on anything. If he can see the face that I see and I took a picture of, my whole worry is that I'm tripping, and so I took a picture of something that looks like a face, and on my phone I see a picture of a face, but I'm still tripping, so it might not be, if someone could look at this and be like, no, it's not a face, what are you talking about? And when I sober up, I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, I don't see anything. Surely I'm crazy. Surely this is all a trip. Surely this was not a face. Surely this wasn't the face. I was right here. You can see that's where Jesus' face was. It was there, right there. If this is true, y'all, what I'm seeing and what I saw and what I took a picture of, if it's true, if what I just took a picture of, in fact, is the face of whom I think it might be, what are we doing with our lives and all of this trickery? The rest of the ayahuasca experience was absolutely amazing, and you can listen to the full episode here. But it was after the experience that everything really sank in. So the sunshine was coming through here. A few hours after having fully come down off of the experience, I sent the pictures of that face to a friend of mine, and he wanted an explanation. Filtered through all those wine bottles and with the vines and stuff in them, and the roots in them and all that stuff. So I went back to the scene with my iPhone to record what I had remembered and investigate what I didn't. And the light comes in through here and bounces, through there and ends up on that wall back there. And so you can see there's no human. Is there? Okay, so I now know what that is. That is a reflection of that. Okay. During my investigation, in an attempt to retrace my steps, I decided to lay down in the exact same place I was laying when I saw the vision. But you got to understand that I was laying here. What you're about to see is an absolute miracle. Down here on this thing here. To me, there's no doubt that it's Jesus Christ. Looking up, you can see his face.
Holy. You can hear the absolute wonderment in my voice when I see that it's still there. You can still kind of see, yeah. There's a little bit like, wow. And if you look closely, you can also see several crosses. It's still a reflection of all this going on here, but and the sun was the way the sun, oh my. So basically what I can tell here is that the combination of light through there hitting, this is exactly where I was sitting, right? Hitting that reflection. There's shadows, all these shadows are perfectly coinciding. But here's the thing, that's reflecting this over there. That's what's going on. So you move any of this and you change the lighting, it's all different. This was all fucking placed there accidentally for a fucking reason. You change anything in this equation, it's not that. A couple days later, in the midst of a full-on existential crisis, I recorded this.
And the thing is, y'all, I know what it is. It's a reflection. It's sun coming in through there, you know, bouncing off of this and everything. What that face there, y'all, is a reflection of that right there. There's the knee, what looks like a knee to me on this reflection. There's that part, right? That looks like a knee or a shoulder or something right there. Where's my freaking finger? There we go. That looks like a shoulder or a knee or something, right? That's that. It's hard to point here. And then the face there is that. Now, here's the thing. It's not like my wife, whose stuff that is, by the way, it's not like she arranged that and was like, oh, I'm going to arrange this so that if you sit at this particular spot in the restroom and look specifically through this part, and because it doesn't, you don't see it here. You don't see it there. You see it only here. This particular spot where it is exactly where I was sitting. My head was even in the exact spot to see that. There's no other place in the restroom where that is visible like that. There's no way that my wife hung that deliberately so she can, you know, arrange that deliberately. Oh, that's going to look like a face if you're right here looking up through that. There's no way. Anything in that equation is different. Any arrangement of that is different. You don't get that. Blows my mind. Do you see what is going on in my life, y'all? People are wondering why I'm quitting my job. Do you see it? Do you see why I'm quitting my job? I'm sorry I'm angry, y'all. I'm angry because I'm scared. I don't know what's going to happen in my life because of all this. I'm scared. I know God has my back and is going to give me a soft landing and a beautiful landing, and I'm going to put my faith in it. I'm out of breath, man. I'm so scared. Okay, I'm calming down. What you see in there is a miracle. Period. All of you statisticians and scientists out there, it's just a reflection. It's just that. You were not there. You were not on ayahuasca. By the way, that's not an ayahuasca trip. That is real, whatever you want to call real. If this was happening to you, all of you science weirdos and statisticians, you would be freaking out too. You bet your ass it's a subjective experience. You bet your ass it's in your head, but what is in your head matters to you. And you better believe it matters to me. That is why I'm changing my life and walking away from the coward that I used to be. I am dragging the coward, kicking and screaming, from his bullshit castle that he devised to protect him. I'm dragging that version of myself by the freaking hair, by the no hair, by the ears. Okay, we'll go with that. Dragging him out to the square, and I'm hanging him in the square for all to see. That being said, that's what I want to do, right? But I can't. I shouldn't. The right answer, the godly answer that I was taught, is that you take that coward out by the hand and you forgive him. And you integrate him. You are a trusted advisor now. There are things about you that were awesome. I forgive you, and let's fold your good things in with my good things, and let's move on. That's the answer. That is the answer. That is the answer. And, you know, Jesus must really love my shower, because a couple days after that, I saw this. Okay, y'all, I'm in the shower, right? Now, I know what you're thinking. What in the world were you doing showering with your phone? I wasn't. It was nearby outside of the shower, and I went and grabbed it when I saw what I saw. So this, look at that, first of all, right? I get here, and it turns into a reflection. Now you see a cross over here, over here, over here. But then there's also a line here and a line there. So again, no cross here right now, right? But when I move over here, the reflection of everything forms a cross. And then there's the line on the actual shower, lines of the cross, perfectly centered, almost perfectly centered, with the cross in the background. What in the world is going on, people? I mean, y'all, all of the crosses. I mean, I'm counting like 7 different signs of the cross, you know, and 3 of them now, 4 of them have been inside of my shower. And then, of course, the face of Jesus himself. I can't even, I mean, how statistics and stuff like this doesn't factor in here, y'all. I'm sorry. It doesn't. Now, before we get into the analysis of the photographs and videos, I want to first say and acknowledge that we do not know what Jesus Christ looked like. We don't know if he looked like this, or this, or this, or this, or this, or this. We simply don't know. Quite simply, the only reason that I'm so confident is a combination of a gut feeling and simple logic. Logic that we will discuss in this analysis. Okay, so we're going to analyze the first picture that I took of what I'm calling Jesus. This is a picture that I took during my actual ayahuasca trip. This was about 4 p.m. I'm sitting in the bathroom. If you remember, this is the shower right here. And I'm sitting down and away from the shower, looking up towards it. And like I said, it's about 4 p.m. in the afternoon. I don't have any lights on in the room. This whole room is being lit only by one window way up, you know, sunlight coming through it. And that, of course, is bouncing all kinds of light everywhere. And you get this reflection of my wife's shower cap and her robe. And somehow, and only in that specific location where I was sitting, when you sit at that angle with that configuration in the exact specific way that my wife had hung that stuff that particular day, you get what looks to me like a very clear human face right here. So a lot of people, when I told them, hey, I saw, you know, I see this and I see Jesus, and they look at it and they're like, well, man, they only see this part. They see just this oval part right here. And they're like, to me, that doesn't look much like a human face, you know? But to me, that's not all I saw. I saw more than that. I, of course, saw this oval part, and then there you have a very distinct eye here. You have another distinct eye right over here. You got like a little bit of an eyebrow there, an eyebrow there. You got this nose coming down right here. So clearly we can all agree on that, right? You got an eye here, a big nose. Then you got this Fu Manchu looking mustache right here, right? Can we all see that? Then you got, to me, you know, again, you see a chin coming down here. Kind of the jaw line, if you will. I don't know what this little thing would represent, of course, but that's there too, whatever in the world that would be. But again, you get the full face right here. You get the mustache, you get the nose, you get an eye right here, you get an eye right there. But you know, so a lot of people saw that, but they didn't see this other part that I saw. To me, once you go past this chin, you get to what looks to me right here like a neck. And so you get to this neck area. If you follow this neck down, it comes down to this dark area here, which to me looks like a shirt. It's like, here's the neck part of the shirt, and here's like the shoulder part, and coming down here would be his torso part. And then, of course, if you follow that neckline up, to me, this is the back part of the neck, and you go up to what looks like a sideburn right here. So you got a sideburn. You can almost make out what would be like an ear right there, right to the right of it. And then this sideburn tapers up to the top of what looks like a skull, the top of the head to me right here. So to me, this isn't just a little oval with like a funky looking face in it. To me, this is a full-on human torso, upper body and neck and head area. You got, you know, if this pillar wasn't here, you'd see a shoulder. You'd see still don't know what this represents. It's like a friend of mine who did this amazing drawing for me interpreted this as a knee, like Jesus is like sitting down, right? So to me, it's like he's either clutching like a robe or something like that to his face, or he's sitting down. That's his knee. But to me, regardless of what this is, and to me that can even be ignored, because to me it's so clear that you see a human face here. It's like there's the eye, there's the nose, there's the mustache, there's the chin, there's the neck, there's the sideburn, there's the ear, there's the top. You know, it's like, to me that is absolutely clear. And when you're sitting about 15 feet away from it, which I was, maybe even 20 feet away, it's kind of like being at a art museum and seeing an impressionistic painting. Impressionism is amazing in the sense that when you're up close to it, all you see are these very harsh brush strokes of paint. Really intense and deep and thick brush strokes of paint, and it just looks like chaos. And the farther you step away from it, the more you can start to see forms. Like you'll see, like Monet, what did he do? He did like water lilies and stuff like that. And again, if you're up close, they look like just random paint strokes. And as you walk away from them, you get further away, they can almost become photorealistic at a certain point. And so to me, that's what I saw. I was far enough away. I guarantee you, if I got really close to this reflection, it wouldn't look like a face to me. And I think that's what a lot of people can't get their heads around, is that they're like, well, dude, that doesn't look like a very convincing image of a face. Well, to me it does. Granted, it's blurry. Granted, it's impressionistic in its nature. But to me, this is just as impactful as seeing a very beautiful, photorealistic, impressionistic painting. Now, I know photorealistic, impressionistic painting is a kind of a clash of terms there, but again, I challenge you, go to an art museum and stand far enough away from one of the greats, one of the great impressionistic painters that draws a person or paints a person, and there's a certain distance at which the person that he paints will look photorealistic. And then when you get close enough to them, of course, now you see the brush strokes. So you see the violent, intense, very deep paint brush strokes. I mean, sometimes they'll have globs of paint sticking out of the dang paint of the canvas. And so that same concept applies here. If you got close to this, it doesn't look like, it looks like what it is. It looks like a shower cap that has some crinkles in it, and this would be the thing that hangs this. So this is actually the little hanger that hangs stuff. It's not a sideburn, of course. It's a little hanger, and there's something hanging there. And there's another thing hanging here that looks like a, when you step far enough away, it looks like a shirt. But when you get up close, you see that it's another like shower cap thingy. And so there's no mystery here, y'all. To me, the mystery, when you're up close, there's no mystery. But to me, the mystery here, the beauty, the impactful thing, y'all, is that when you're far enough away from it, for me, that was 15 feet or so where I was sitting, exactly where I was sitting, and looking up at this certain angle, the confluence of all these different reflections and the way that this window was angled to catch the reflection, and the exact way that my wife had hung this stuff that particular day created this impressionistic, beautiful, to me, a blurry, granted, a photorealistic image, albeit a blurry photo. But to me, all of the proportions here are spot on. There is nothing in this face that looks like a caricature. There's nothing off about this that I'm like, oh man, that just, like if he had a giant ear coming out here, I'd be like, oh no. If he had a giant eyeball, or one eyeball was like kind of down, like Quasimodo or something like that, I'd be like, okay, that doesn't pass the sniff test. But to me, all of this is perfectly proportioned for a guy with his head tilted, kind of looking down at you. It is unbelievably amazing. Unbelievably amazing. And so that is my impression of, what I got out of seeing this image. And I would also, of course, like to point out that this image appeared to me, while all this other stuff, this right here, this is actually a fogless mirror that I have inside of my shower. That took on this very bizarre shape and was, because I'm tripping on ayahuasca, for crying out loud. This thing was like doing this very weird, bizarre thing, and there was other reflections around this. Like there's a bunch up here that you don't see in the picture, but there's a bunch of other reflections up here that are actual reflections in the room from other things that were doing all kinds of weird stuff. I mean, like they were like flowing around and forming these incredibly elaborate and beautiful geometric patterns and stuff. But this one right here, this reflection did not move. It did not become animated in any way. It did not flow or turn into any kind of geometry or anything like that. It stayed exactly the way it was. This is exactly how I saw it. There is no way that my phone was also tripping on ayahuasca. I took a picture of what was actually there, and we were seeing reflections that were actually there, and those reflections stayed there for about a month, or maybe I think it was even 2 months, until my wife, eventually, this is another shower cap. This is a shower cap she stopped really using. So eventually she, used it again, and it stopped. Of course, his face was different. There's no face there anymore. It's just completely random. So sitting in the bathroom at that certain angle, at that certain elevation, is the only place in the bathroom. And I would also like to point out, the only place in the universe that you can see that. And it just so happened that I was on an ayahuasca trip, contemplating my new path in life when I saw this. And I was actually saying the word window dressing when I locked eyes and saw that. This image, this reflection was there the whole time, staring me in the face, and I didn't even notice it. I was there, I was about 2 hours into my trip before I saw it. And through all the craziness, all of the different amazing mystical things that I saw, and the incredibly psychedelic and trippy patterns and shapes and flowing this and that and all the other things, through all that, there was this man, unchanged, completely as cool as a cucumber, staring me in the face with an imploring look. To me, that looks like an ancient Hebrew Jew. And considering all of the different signs of the cross that I was seeing leading up to this event, a couple of them were in my shower, for crying out loud. Considering all this and the question about my path, like what is my new path, everything in my life, y'all, was leading up to Jesus. And on this ayahuasca trip, he shows up in this reflection, and it wasn't even part of the trip. That's the amazing part. That's the part that really blows me out of the water, is that it would be completely different if I just saw a trippy image of Jesus and just told y'all about it. But y'all are seeing it. This is an untampered photograph. Now we're going to move on to the second image. Okay, so this is the second representative image of what I'm calling Jesus. And this is a still shot, screenshot, if you will, taken from the video that I took about a couple hours after I had fully come down off of the ayahuasca trip. And the very first thing that I want to point out, it's something that I didn't even notice until a couple days ago. I'd seen this video multiple times. I had no idea that right here, boom, is a cross right there. You see it? A perfect crucifix, if you're looking at it from an angle. But that alone would not be enough to impress me, right? It's just intersecting lines. But when you couple it with the fact that it's sitting right next to a man, clearly, there's a clear face here, in my opinion. Granted, it looks kind of like an impressionistic painting. It looks more like a man the further you get away. And there's a couple features that I really want to point out about this particular vantage point, this angle of what I'm calling Jesus. So first of all, I'm at a slightly different angle. I'm a little bit more, squared up, right? So the image itself is a little more squared up. And it's kind of funny. This, I don't know, it looks like a much more serious, I hesitate to say more athletic. He looks like more of a square-jawed, stern, kind of giving you a look of, kind of like, it's almost like a challenge. Like he's almost like looking straight into your soul, like challenging you to take command and take action. Like this is a very kind of serious look on his face. And another feature I'd like to point out here is the eyes. So over here we got a bunch of mess, right? Can't really tell much about it. From an impressionistic painting standpoint, if you stood far back enough, you could kind of maybe see something that resembles an eye. I would like to point out that there's kind of a dark band, though, that goes across the whole face, right about there. You can kind of see it. It kind of almost looks like he's wearing sunglasses in a way, very thin sunglasses. But that is in perfect alignment with what I'm calling his other eye, the more perfect eye here that you can see. And this eye, y'all, that I'm pointing at here is quite haunting. You can see the outline, the oval kind of shape, the oblong shape of the eye here, right here. And you have a white part of the eye, it's called the sclera. They have a white part there, you have a white part there. And then right in the middle, of course, you have a dark part, and this, of course, the iris. And to me, this is a perfectly proportional human eyeball. It looks exactly like an eyeball to me. And again, all these proportions are amazingly accurate for what a human face really would be like. It's all symmetrical, it's all proportional. You have facial features down in the lower part of the head, you got the forehead over here. And so to me, this looks exactly like a person to me. Each time that I saw it, and the crazy thing is when you see it move, like you see it now, it looks even more creepy, because I don't know, it's like seeing just a snapshot of it is one thing, but seeing it move when you move, like what I mean is being in the room and watching it in a dynamic setting is a complete different ball game. And seeing it with your own eyes, y'all, is, to me, it's the game changer of all game changers. This to me was a human face staring me in the face, and it looked like an ancient Hebrew Jew.
And if you still can't see a face or the other details that I mentioned, like the neck and the shirt and all that stuff, if you can't see all that, I went ahead and actually sketched out, traced around what I see to make it very clear. And I'm going to do a side-by-side comparison here, so hopefully you can see what I saw. I'm a terrible artist, okay, terrible, but this is what you're going to get here. So yeah, I'm a pretty terrible artist. I mean, that sketch is pretty bad. But you know who is not a terrible artist? In fact, the complete opposite of that, like a really, really good artist? the friend of mine who was actually there sitting for me during the ayahuasca experience, the same guy who saw with his own eyeballs the same thing that I saw, and just about everyone that I haven't sat down and shown all the things that I see, just about everyone, they see their own version of it, right? And he, of course, saw the little oval part of the face and everything, and he kind of had some artistic creativity around the rest of what he saw. And he produced one of the most amazing things that I've ever seen. He said that little robe part, he said that looked like a knee to him, and I can't really disagree. And so he built this amazing, not only sketch, but he built an animation of it dissolving into each other, of basically Jesus kind of sitting down, and it's amazing. Here it is. So, I mean, is there any dispute here that we at least see a face? Like, I don't care what else you see. If you see, like, the sideburn and the neck and the shirt and everything, like, I kind of don't care at this point. I mean, I think we can all see a face, right? And, you know, that it's just a face, right? I mean, it can be anybody's face. There have been over 100 billion people that have existed on this planet since, 200,000 years ago up until now. It can be any one of those 100 billion people. In fact, maybe to you, this is a face that never existed before, doesn't exist now, and never will exist in the future. But to me, in the midst of struggling with bridging the infinite of God to the finite of man and receiving sign after sign after sign of the cross, and then contemplating my path, seeing a face of what looks like an ancient Hebrew Jew? What? Okay, so it's obvious that some time has passed here. I have a haircut and I'm sitting on a balcony in a hotel. But I noticed something when I was reviewing the video that made me think. I was like, I gotta do some research on this. So if you look at the original photograph of what I'm calling Jesus, the colors are very muted. I mean, there basically are no colors. It's just like kind of almost black and white, if you call it, if you want to call it that, maybe sepia tone or whatever. But regardless, muted colors can't tell much of differentiation of colors. But if you look at the projected image, there's more color contrast, and there's two colors in particular that leap out at me: red and blue. Which makes total sense to me because, after all, they are reflections of my wife's shower cap, which is red, and that's kind of the shirt of what I'm calling Jesus, and my wife's powder blue robe, which is kind of like what my friend called the knee. You could call it a shoulder, or you could think of it as Jesus like hoisting up a robe or something. But either way, you get this red shirt and this blue kind of robe thing. So I was curious. I was like, I wonder if there's anything out there that talks about or shows or anything like that, like Jesus wearing red and blue. And this is what I found. Depiction after depiction after depiction of Jesus wearing red and blue. I mean, for crying out loud, it is in the Last Supper painting by Leonardo da Vinci. Look at that. And so to me, it's just simple logic. I mean, you add everything up. I mean, the fact that I was having a very Jesus-like thought in my head at the moment, and then all of a sudden I see a face of what looks like an ancient Hebrew Jew. So that's two things right there. I was thinking about it, and then I see a face of an ancient Hebrew Jew. Then you throw in the crucifixes that are in the background. That's the third thing that we're adding up here. which I didn't even notice those crucifixes until I was reviewing the footage, y'all, like the other day when I was making the video, for crying out loud. Then you throw on the red and blue clothing, and it's just, there's too many coincidences here. And also you throw on the other fact that it's a photorealistic image. I mean, it's amazing to me. I mean, even to see a face, I don't care whose face it is. To see, I mean, it could be friggin' Elvis. I don't care. Like, to see such an amazingly immaculate, there's a word, there's a Christian word for you, but to see such a immaculate vision of a person's face that's so photorealistic, that, I mean, that's right there alone, just amazing. But you add up all these other factors, and to me, there's no one else that it could be. No one else. To me, that is, was, and always will be the face of Jesus Christ of Nazareth. Period. And if you disagree with me, then we are in disagreement with what I believe. And so I sent those pictures of what I'm calling Jesus to a friend of mine who is deeply religious, a Christian man. And he asked me my thoughts on what I thought that it meant. And I recorded a voice memo and sent it to him. So what I think it means is as follows. It's a beautiful, it's a perfect message, man. Perfect message. And it's basically, you need, I mean, I guess some people don't need this, right? Sometimes God or angels or whatever will appear to them or whatever. I'm not trying to discount that, but me, at least, I need the help of psychedelics to see angels and God, right? These are mystical beings that exist in a mystical sphere of reality, and you need psychedelics to see them and communicate with them. That's why this image of Jesus Christ on my shower is absolutely bone-chilling. And I mean bone-chilling in a cosmic way. And that's because Jesus was a real person. He's both, right? He's mystical and he was a real person. I didn't have a mystical experience with Jesus on my psychedelic trip. I had a real life experience with Jesus on my psychedelic trip, but also in reality because he was real. And he didn't, I saw him during my trip. I saw that image and it was real, and I took a picture of it. My friend saw it, and my mom has seen it, and others, they're like, what in the world? I'm like, yeah. There's clearly a Hebrew Arab Jew, not the anglicized white Jesus, right? There is someone who looks like a Hebrew Arabic Jew with facial hair and whatnot on my shower, in my shower, in real life, that other people have seen. And to me, the implications of it not being part of the trip and it being real, and it's not like during my trip that image came to life and started talking to me. It didn't need to talk to me. It did all the talking without talking and without moving. And that is a powerful freaking message. And it scares me. Man. That's what I think it means. And I don't even know if I answered your question. To me, that means that Jesus is the answer in our real lives that we live here on this planet. Yeah. So that's it. That was my Jesus experience, my Jesus sighting. Remember, not a vision, it was a sighting. And I really don't have anything impactful or amazing to close out with. I mean, I think the impactful thing was just what was spoken in that voice memo. But I can tell you that, for those of us who believe, those of us who have had a God or Jesus experience, all I can tell you is that I'm an infant in the whole Christian, first of all, the spiritual world, spirituality and believing in God, but especially the Christian world. And I can tell you that based on what I can see and ascertain and feel and glean from these experiences and trying to live my daily life, from what I can tell, Jesus is the example that is impossible for us to reach, but an example that we need to strive to be at nonetheless. And I'm going to try every second, my best, because we are human and we will fall short. We all fall short. The Pope, for crying out loud, y'all, fell short and falls short probably every day. I mean, the guy infamously liked a photograph of like some Brazilian swimsuit model, and a lot of people freaked out about that and were upset. But to me, in a strange way, that's a beautiful thing. That shows that he is a man and he falls short and he is a sinner, and he will never attain the perfection that this man was, and none of us will, and we will all fall short, and we should not kick each other while we're down when that happens, period. We should reach out with love and acceptance and warmth and kindness. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. I am trying to adopt and fold that concept into my life as much as I can. And for those of you who are just rolling their eyes in the back of your head because you don't believe in God and Jesus and all this stuff, and you think that morality obtained apart from religion is more sacred than morality that's forced down your throat because of a Bible kind of thing, reading the Bible and going to church, all I got to tell you is, what alternative do you want? Would you rather people not have morals? Because I'll tell you that I would rather people have morals. And I can tell you that I was in that same mentality for 25 years of looking down my nose at people that believed in God and believed in the Bible and thought that they were so righteous because they read something that said you need to be a good person instead of just being a good person naturally. And so if you're atheist, agnostic, nihilistic, whatever, and you already have that feeling, that acknowledgement, then you're already a leap ahead of most people, because most people don't even think about that stuff. So if you acknowledge and recognize that there is something innately good in people, that there can be such a concept of morality obtained aside from reading something in a book that says you should act and behave this way, if you recognize that, then good. You see the divine spark, the source of all feeling and emotion and goodness. You see that in people, and that's step number one. So my advice to you is to have an open mind and listen to stories like this of people who have been on the other side of the whole religion thing. And I'm completely comfortable, and that was my comfort zone for 25 years, 25 plus years. Listen to someone who has been on that other side for a long time and has dabbled and wallowed and festered in that world. And I can tell you that it's fruitless. There's a concept of optimistic nihilism where you believe that nothing has any meaning and that we're all doomed and none of it will have meant anything in the end. And there is a positive spin on that to where you treat everything as, well, I might as well be good because doing good things feels good and is harmonious for everybody and everybody wins in that kind of situation. Optimistic nihilism is a fleeting concept. When you do not have a foundation of belief in anything, you can be an optimistic nihilist for maybe a couple months, maybe a year max. And there will be times where that foundation dissolves beneath you and you go plunging into the deepest, darkest pits of depression and despair and addiction and so on and so forth. And the ultimate extremes of nihilism, y'all, I hate to go right out and say this, genocide, okay? Mass genocide, millions of people dead. World War II, estimated 85 million people dead for the entire human struggle of World War II. So it's the highest of high stakes involved here, y'all. We're talking lives. We're not playing these silly little games when you start delving into the deep, dark recesses and chasms of disbelief, okay? And I hate to end on a intense and bad note like that, but I think that in times like this that we're living in, and of course there will always be times like this. There have been times like this going back to the beginning of time, where people thought that we live in a unique situation. We kind of do, we kind of don't. But I'm going to say it anyway. In times like this, we need to hear this stuff, y'all. And if you do not believe in anything, if you are a nihilist, I got to tell you that you're in for a rough ride, and I hope that you a really, really rough ride, and I hope that you can find some shred of belief somewhere. And whether you do or you don't, all I got to tell you is that I love you. And not because I have been commanded to love you. I love you because we are all in this together. We all share the same energy. What I've seen on the other side on my psychedelic experiences, it's analogous to we are streams and estuaries of a larger river, and that larger river gives way into a sea, and that sea is God. We are all a subdivided portion of God. We all share in His divinity, and we all contribute to it. So when I say that I love you, I mean it. I've felt it. I've seen it. I've experienced it. I've basked in it for hours. And I've communicated with the Almighty face to face in English about that and about other concepts that are absolutely mind-blowingly amazing. So that's all I got. I'm going to end on that. I love you all, and journey on.